Hey friends, it's Elizabeth Morse. I am here today cooking for you from Simply Out of the Box, from pantry to plate. And I thought what we would do today, this is actually kind of a simple dish, but one that I think gets overlooked a lot. And we picked up a USDA food box today, and it had both cheese and milk in it. And I happen to have already a couple other things that we need, herbs, butter, flour, and some pasta. And so I thought what I would do is talk just a little bit about macaroni and cheese, the homemade kind, not the box kind, and show y'all how to make it, because it is it's one of those things that everybody loves, but kind of gets a bad rap as not maybe the most nutritious food that you could make for your family. But honestly, if you dig a little bit deeper, what you find is that mac and cheese does have a ton of protein. And you can do a few simple things to kind of kick it up a notch and make it a little bit more healthy. I am using penne instead of macaroni because that's what I have on hand, and it doesn't really matter. But one thing that you can always do is use a whole wheat pasta. There are also some pastas now that are made like with garbanzo beans, and those are a great healthy choice. So first thing that we're going to do, I've got a big pot of water here that I've turned on. It's getting ready to boil, and I'm going to add a little bit of salt, just because I always like to salt my water. That's really the last thing that you do that's, seasoning your pasta. It also helps the water boil just a little bit faster. So as soon as that starts to boil, we will add our noodles and let that get cooking. And then the next thing I'm going to do is we need 2.5 cups of cheese, and we got this. It is a horseradish chive cheddar in our food box today. So I thought I would go ahead and use that, but you can really use any sharp cheese that you like. Obviously cheddar is what most of us know and are comfortable with, but this is what I've got, so that's what I'm going to use, and it should be really tasty, nice and rich. And I like to do the grating of the cheese. I like to use pre-grated, and I'm just going to go ahead and get about 2.5 cups. And then what it's going to do, it's going to sit here and warm up a little bit while I'm cooking the rest of the dish. And I really like it to be room temperature because it melts real nicely. This seems like it's going to be a really creamy and smooth cheese. Okay. That's about 2.5 cups. This cheese smells great, you guys. I'm going to set that down and just let the cheese hang out here and start getting warmed up to room temp. Okay, in the meantime, I am going to turn on my stove, this front burner here, and we're going to make the beginning of the sauce. We need 3 tablespoons of butter. That's just a tiny bit more, but I'm going to go ahead and use it. As soon as this melts, we're going to add flour, and we're going to make a roux. And that way, when we add our milk, the roux will serve as a thickener and make our sauce nice and thick before we add the cheese. Okay, that butter's melting. I'm going to actually go ahead and add a few grinds of pepper. I like a little bit more maybe than some, but that's to taste. Just a tiny bit of salt because the cheese has quite a bit of salt in it, and you don't want to overdo that. And remember, we did salt our water. Okay, you all. Much like the rest of the world, everybody's home at my house right now with the COVID. We also picked up 2 rescue dogs this week who are huge and snoring, and you may hear them in the background, so I apologize for that. But we're just going to keep going because this is real life. Okay, my water looks like it's getting close. It's at a simmer, but not quite boiling yet, so I'm not going to add the noodles. But my butter's melted. I'm going to go ahead and add 2 tablespoons of flour to that. I'm going to turn down this heat just a little bit. We're going to cook that flour taste out and also try to get this through kind of a golden color. while that's cooking up, I'm going to go ahead and measure out 2 cups of milk. And I like my sauce a little bit creamier, so I'm going to say actually that we're probably going to use more like 2 1/4 cups, but we'll see how it goes. Oh, and there goes our pasta water is boiling. So I'm going to go ahead and add this. And this particular noodle is called Thick and Hearty. It's a little bit more dense than some. So I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to double check this time. Looks like about 13 minutes. Hey Alexa, set timer for 13 minutes.
13 minutes, starting now. By the way, you have one new notification. When you see the yellow light ring on your device,
Okay, so
just say, read my notifications.
do y'all hear Alexa talking to me? Jeez. Okay, so I don't know if you can see, this is getting foamy. It's starting to get a little darker in color. I'm just going to keep whisking that. We definitely don't want it to burn, but we do want to get all that flour flavor cooked out and get a little bit of a golden color on our roux. So when I was researching macaroni and cheese, you all, I looked up, just the traditional craft that everybody has kind of grown up on and knows and loves. And if you make an entire box of that, what I found out is that it has 27 grams of protein, which was very surprising to me. I kind of thought that was kind of just junk food, and it's actually not so bad. Now, I will tell you, I'm going to turn this down just a little so we don't boil over. I will tell you that taste-wise, nutrition-wise, obviously, if you go with the homemade kind, you're going to do a lot better. The fun thing about mac and cheese is that you can kind of customize it for your own family, right? I love putting a little broccoli in mine. We're going to make it plain today, but spinach is another really good thing. Some people like to put cauliflower in theirs, or even some onion. There's even a fancy restaurant that I went to recently that shows that has a whole menu of fun ways that you can like doctor up your mac and cheese. They were adding like really fancy things like lobster and shrimp and all kinds of stuff, but it kind of inspired me to get a little bit more creative here at home and dress mine up. Okay, so our roux is looking pretty good, and I'm gonna add this milk slowly, and I'm gonna whisk it in as I go. And the idea is, just like if you were making a gravy, you're gonna bring this up to a boil. And as you do that, the roux will activate and thicken your milk and make a nice creamy sauce. And then after that happens, we're going to add the cheese and see if we're okay or if we need to add a little bit more milk. I'm going to go ahead and give our noodles a stir so that they don't stick to the pan. And that's fine. And as our sauce heats up, I'm also going to take a little cooking spray. You could use butter if you want to, or whatever you've got handy. I happen to have some cooking spray, so I'm going to spray the inside of this. Now, this is something that y'all can think about. I love baked macaroni and cheese, but some people don't like that kind of crusty top that it gets. And that is certainly up to you, but I do like to throw it in the oven. Sometimes if I have some old breadcrumbs or even some potato chips like at the end of the bag, I'll put that on the top to make a nice crust. Get that going. All right, our noodles are looking good. Our sauce, before we even add the cheese, is starting to get thicker. I don't know if y'all can see that. It smells good. Oh yeah, definitely thickening up. Now, since it's milk and since you're bringing it to a boil, you definitely want to not walk away from it and keep stirring so that you don't end up with a bunch of scorched milk on the bottom of your pan, because that is a bummer. And it's almost there. And for those of you keeping score at home, you'll notice that this does not really take that much longer. Maybe a little more effort, right, with grating the cheese, but really didn't take any longer than making the regular kind of macaroni and cheese out of the box. So, oh yeah, this looks great. Okay, thickening right up. Here, let's see. So y'all can see that. Now I'm going to turn that down just a smidge. And of course my hands are way, way, way clean and washed. I'm going to add that. Again, this is about 2.5 cups of shredded cheese. And I may shred even just a tiny bit more to put on the top because I love that crusty layer that gets all nice and bubbly on the top. But that's up to you. Oh my goodness, that smells really good. So I think I told you all this is a sharp cheese that's got some onion in it, and it smells amazing. But I just used what I had on hand. Oh my goodness. See, that's super thick now, nice and thick. I'm going to actually cut the heat. This pan is cast iron and it holds in a bunch of heat, so it'll continue, excuse me, continue to melt the cheese without burning my sauce. Okay, let me check my noodles. I wish y'all could smell this. It smells pretty yummy. Okay, while that's heating up, I am in fact going to grate just a little bit more cheese for the top. Okay, our sauce looks great. I'm going to let this finish cooking and we're going to come right back. Hey friends, we're back and the noodles are finally done. And I'm going to drain the water out and then we're going to put this dish together and pop it in the oven. Okay, here we go. We've got our noodles. I'm going to go ahead and turn that fire off all the way. And I'm going to add our cheese sauce. And again, mine is kind of white because I used a white cheddar, but use what you've got on hand. And that'll make the most sense. Okay, now I'm going to stir this up. This is pretty creamy, so I don't think we need to add any more milk, which is wonderful. Remember, we sprayed our pan earlier, our casserole dish. So I'm going to go ahead and pour this in. It smells really good. I really like the way that those onions smell in that cheese. Okay, so we've got that in. I don't know if y'all can see it. Looks pretty yummy. And then I'm going to go ahead and add this last little bit of cheese that I grated since I had so much to use. And then I found also in my pantry, nobody was really digging these potato chips, these sour cream and onions. We just don't have a bunch of fans in our house. So I'm going to crush these up right here in the bag. This is totally an optional step, but I think it'll be pretty good. All right, those are nice and crushed, and I'm going to sprinkle that on the top. Get that all moved around, and that's going to make a really nice crust. I'm going to stick this in the oven at 350 for probably just 15 minutes. Remember, it's all the way cooked through, so this is just going to melt the cheese on top and give us that crust that I like. If you don't like it, oops, you can serve it just as it is right now. All right, y'all, it's been in the oven. I don't know if you can see. I don't like a super, super dark crust, but this has got a lovely crust. It's bubbly, it's creamy, and I think my family is really going to enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in for mac and cheese, and I'll see you next time.